She's not even capable of feeding my granddaughter a proper meal, Your Honor. I've seen that child eating cereal out of a coffee mug at 9 o'clock at night. My mother-in-law said it with a cracked voice and wet eyes, like she'd rehearsed it in front of a bathroom mirror until the tears came on cue. She was sitting 6 feet to my left in a navy dress she'd bought specifically for this hearing. I know because the price tag was still tucked inside the collar. I could see the little white rectangle poking out every time she turned her head. She was trying to take my daughter. She was trying to take my house. She was trying to take the business my husband built with his own hands. And she was doing it while wearing a $400 dress she forgot to detag. I didn't react. I sat perfectly still with my hands flat on the table, and I counted backward from 10. Not because I was angry, because I needed her to keep talking. Every word she said was another nail in a coffin she didn't know she was building. Let me be honest with you. Have you ever loved someone's family so deeply that when they turned on you, it didn't just break your heart, it made you question every holiday, every hug, every welcome to the family they ever gave you? If you have, drop a comment. I need to know I'm not the only one who's been through this. Because on that Tuesday morning in courtroom 6A of the Davidson County Chancery Court in Nashville, Tennessee, I was staring at a woman I had called mom for 8 years, and she was telling a judge I was mentally unfit to raise my own child. My husband, Cole, died 11 months ago. Pancreatic cancer. He was 34. He found out in March. He was gone by October. 7 months from diagnosis to funeral. And most of that time he spent trying to make sure Emma and I would be okay when he wasn't here anymore. Emma was 5 when her daddy got sick. She's 6 now. She has his eyes, this warm golden brown that catches light like honey in a jar. She also has his stubbornness, which is the only reason she still insists on pouring her own cereal, even though she spills half of it on the counter every single time. That's the cereal in the coffee mug, by the way. Emma likes to eat Lucky Charms out of Cole's old Vanderbilt mug because it makes her feel close to him. My mother-in-law took that detail and turned it into evidence of neglect. Cole's mother, Patricia, had been part of our lives since the wedding. She lived 20 minutes away in Brentwood in a 3-bedroom house. Cole had helped her buy when his father left her for a dental hygienist in 2019. Cole paid the down payment. Cole co-signed the mortgage. Cole covered the property taxes every January without being asked. He never told her no. He couldn't. She was his mother, and guilt was the leash she kept him on. When Cole was alive, Patricia was manageable. She'd rearrange my kitchen when I wasn't looking. She'd tell me Emma's hair looked unkempt when I let her wear it in braids instead of the straight blowout Patricia preferred. She'd buy Emma clothes 2 sizes too small and then sigh when they didn't fit, like my daughter's growth was a personal inconvenience. Annoying? Yes. Dangerous? Not yet. Then Cole died, and the mask came off so fast it left claw marks. Here's what Cole left behind. A landscaping company called Green Line Property Services that he'd started in a pickup truck at age 22 and grown into a business with 47 employees, a fleet of commercial mowers, and contracts with 3 of the largest HOA management companies in Middle Tennessee. Revenue last year was just over $3.8 million. He also left our house, a 4-bedroom Craftsman in East Nashville that we'd renovated together, and a life insurance policy worth $750,000 with me as the sole beneficiary. Cole's will was clear. Everything went to me and Emma. Patricia got a $50,000 cash bequest and a letter Cole had written her from his hospital bed, telling her he loved her and asking her to be good to his girls. She cashed the check in 4 days. I don't think she ever read the letter. 3 weeks after the funeral, Patricia called me at 11 at night. I was half asleep. Emma had just gotten over a stomach bug and I'd been cleaning sheets all day. Patricia's voice was sharp. I need to talk to you about the business. I told her it could wait until morning. No, it can't, she said. Cole would have wanted me involved. I'm the one who encouraged him to start that company. I deserve a say in how it's run. I said goodnight and hung up. That was my first mistake. Not because I was wrong, but because I didn't realize what that phone call actually was. It was a test. She was checking to see if I'd fold. When I didn't, she started planning. Over the next 4 months, Patricia did what narcissists do best. She built an alternate reality. She called Cole's employees and told them I was struggling. She told our neighbors I'd been drinking. She told Cole's best friend, Marcus, that I'd screamed at Emma in a parking lot. None of it was true. All of it was believed. Because who questions a grieving grandmother? Who doubts a woman who shows up to Sunday brunch with red eyes and says, "I'm just so worried about that baby"? Patricia wasn't just lying about me. She was auditioning for the role of savior. And by the time she filed her petition, She had a full supporting cast. The petition landed on a Monday. Emergency conservatorship over me and temporary custody of Emma, plus appointment as interim manager of Green Line Property Services. The grounds were stunning in their creativity. She claimed I had experienced a psychotic break after Cole's death. She claimed I had been verbally and emotionally abusive toward Emma. She claimed I had been financially reckless with the business, making erratic decisions that put employees at risk. And she had an expert, a licensed clinical social worker named Dana Whitfield, who had submitted a 6-page evaluation concluding that I exhibited signs of complicated grief disorder with paranoid features and recommending immediate intervention. Dana Whitfield had never met me, never spoke to me, never sat in a room with me for even 5 minutes. She wrote a clinical evaluation of a woman she had never laid eyes on, based entirely on interviews with Patricia and 2 of Patricia's friends. She diagnosed me over brunch. Now, here's the part Patricia didn't know. Before I married Cole, before I became a stay-at-home mom, before I spent my days packing lunches and driving Emma to swim lessons, I had a career. I spent 6 years as a data forensics analyst at a cybersecurity firm in Atlanta. My job was to trace digital footprints, follow money through encrypted accounts, and build evidence packages for federal prosecutors going after white-collar criminals. I had worked identity theft rings, Ponzi schemes, and a $14 million Medicare fraud case that put 3 people in prison. When Cole got sick, I left that career to take care of him. When he died, I focused on Emma, but the skills didn't leave. They were sitting right there in my brain, waiting for someone to give me a reason to use them. Patricia gave me one. I didn't file a counter motion. I didn't call a family meeting. I didn't post on Facebook or cry to my friends or do any of the things Patricia was expecting. I did what I had been trained to do. I opened my laptop, made a cup of coffee, and started pulling threads. The first thread was the business. Patricia claimed I was financially reckless, so I pulled every bank statement, every invoice, every payroll record from the past 11 months. What I found was this. Green Line was more profitable under my management than it had been in Cole's final year when he'd been too sick to oversee daily operations. Revenue was up 9%. Client retention was at 97%. I had hired a new operations manager, a woman named Keisha who had 15 years in the industry, and she was doing an extraordinary job. The business was fine, better than fine. So where was Patricia getting her claim of financial recklessness? I found it. 6 weeks after Cole's death, Patricia had called our bookkeeper, a part-time contractor named Lyle Brennan, and told him she needed family copies of the financial records. Lyle, who had known Patricia for years and had no reason to question a grieving mother, gave her access to the QuickBooks account. Patricia didn't just look. She made changes. Subtle ones. She reclassified legitimate business expenses as personal withdrawals. She moved line items between categories so that the profit and loss statements looked chaotic. She even created 2 fake vendor payments to a company called Volunteer Consulting Group, totaling $28,000. That company didn't exist. The payments had been routed to Patricia's personal savings account through a Zelle transfer that she apparently thought was untraceable. She tampered with my husband's business records to make me look incompetent, and she stole $28,000 while she was at it. The second thread was Dana Whitfield. I ran her license number through the Tennessee Department of Health database. She was licensed, but barely. She had 2 prior complaints from former clients, both for inadequate assessment procedures. I also found her connection to Patricia. Dana Whitfield's sister, Karen Whitfield Moore, was Patricia's real estate agent. They had closed 3 transactions together in the past 5 years. Patricia hadn't found an impartial expert. She had found a friend of a friend who was willing to write whatever she was told to write. The third thread was the most important. Patricia had been telling people I was drinking. I wasn't. I hadn't had a glass of wine since Cole's diagnosis because alcohol made me feel foggy and I needed to be sharp for Emma. But Patricia had been saying it so consistently that I knew she'd bring it up in court. So I went to my doctor and had a full panel done, blood work, liver function, the works, everything normal. I also went to a licensed psychiatrist, Dr. Alan Mercer, and completed a comprehensive psychological evaluation. 2 sessions, 4 hours of testing, a 30-page report. His conclusion was clear. No psychotic features, no paranoid ideation, no cognitive impairment. Grief consistent with someone who lost their spouse less than a year ago. Fully functional, fully competent. I framed a copy and hung it on my refrigerator. Not really, but I wanted to. I built my case over 8 weeks. I organized everything into a binder with colored tabs, blue for financial records, green for digital forensics, red for the fake evaluation, yellow for the fraud. I had timestamps. I had IP addresses from the QuickBooks logins that showed Patricia's home network. I had Lyle Brennan's written statement confirming Patricia had requested access under false pretenses. I had screen recordings of the altered records with metadata showing the date and time of every change. And I waited. The hearing was set for a Tuesday in March. Nashville in early spring has that uncertain quality where the sky can't decide between rain and sun, like even the weather is holding its breath. I walked into courtroom 6A at 8:47 a.m. I wore a gray blazer, a white blouse, and the necklace Cole gave me on our 5th anniversary, a small gold pendant with Emma's birthstone. Patricia was already there with her attorney, a man named Derek Stoll, who wore too much cologne and spoke to the judge like they were old fraternity brothers. Behind them sat Patricia's sister, 2 of her friends from book club, and Marcus, Cole's best friend, who wouldn't look at me. That one stung. Marcus had been Cole's best man at our wedding. Now he was sitting on Patricia's side of the courtroom because she'd spent 4 months whispering in his ear. Derek Stoll went first. He painted a picture of a young widow spiraling out of control. He quoted Dana Whitfield's evaluation. He referenced the deteriorating business finances. He described my isolation and erratic behavior. He said Patricia was the only stable presence in this child's life and that without immediate intervention, both the child and the estate are at risk. Patricia took the stand next. She cried. Of course she cried. She talked about Cole like she was the one who lost a husband instead of a son. She described finding Emma in dirty clothes at my house. She described me staring blankly at walls. She described a phone call where I allegedly told her I couldn't do this anymore. That call never happened, but she delivered the line with the precision of a woman who had practiced it 50 times. Judge Reeves listened patiently. She was in her mid-50s, short gray hair, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She had a habit of tilting her head slightly when someone said something she didn't quite believe, like a dog hearing a frequency only it can detect. I noticed she tilted her head 3 times during Patricia's testimony. That told me what I needed to know. Miss Hayward, Judge Reeves said, turning to me. These are significant allegations. You have the right to respond. Would you like to address the court? The room went quiet. Patricia dabbed her eyes. Derek clicked his pen. Marcus stared at the floor. I stood up slowly. I smoothed my blazer. And I looked directly at Patricia. Not at the judge, not at the gallery. At her. I held her gaze for 4 full seconds, long enough for her smile to falter, long enough for her to realize that the woman standing in front of her was not the broken widow she'd been describing. Your Honor, I said, I'd like to start with Miss Whitfield's evaluation, since that appears to be the foundation of this petition. I opened my binder to the red tab. Dana Whitfield is a licensed clinical social worker who submitted a 6-page report diagnosing me with complicated grief disorder with paranoid features. She concluded that I am unfit to manage my own affairs or care for my daughter. I paused. She reached this conclusion without ever meeting me, without ever speaking to me, without conducting a single assessment, test, or interview with the person she diagnosed. Derek stood up. Your Honor, Miss Whitfield conducted thorough collateral interviews with family members who, she interviewed 2 people, I continued, both provided by the petitioner, both personal friends of the petitioner, and Miss Whitfield herself has a personal connection to the petitioner through her sister, Karen Whitfield Moore, who has served as Mrs. Hayward's real estate agent on 3 separate transactions. This was not an independent evaluation. This was a favor. Judge Reeves removed her reading glasses. She looked at Derek. Counselor, was the court made aware of this relationship? Derek's neck turned red above his collar. Your Honor, my client disclosed all relevant. I also completed a voluntary psychiatric evaluation with Dr. Alan Mercer, a board-certified psychiatrist with no connection to any party in this case. I placed the 30-page report on the bench, 2 sessions, 4 hours of comprehensive testing. His conclusion is on page 28. No psychotic features, no paranoid ideation, fully competent. Patricia's jaw tightened. I could see the tendons in her neck flex. I moved to the blue tab. Now, regarding the claim of financial recklessness, I pulled out a spreadsheet. These are the actual financial records for Greenline Property Services for the past 11 months. Revenue is up 9% over the prior year. Client retention is at 97%. Payroll has been met on time every single cycle. There are 0 outstanding debts and 0 missed tax filings. Derek frowned. Your Honor, the records we submitted show significant irregularities. Yes, They do, I said, because they were altered. The room shifted. I could feel it, that imperceptible change in air pressure when every person in a room leans forward at the same time. I pulled out the green tab. On November 14th of last year, someone logged into the Greenline Property Services QuickBooks account from an IP address registered to 4,412 Belmont Park Drive in Brentwood, Tennessee. I looked at Patricia. That is the petitioner's home address. Over the following 3 weeks, that user reclassified 41 legitimate business expenses as personal withdrawals. They moved line items between categories to create the appearance of financial chaos. And they created 2 fictitious vendor payments totaling $28,000 to an entity called Volunteer Consulting Group. Patricia's face went white. Not red, white. The blood left her cheeks like someone had pulled a drain plug. Volunteer Consulting Group is not a registered business in Tennessee or any other state, I continued. It has no EIN, no website, no employees, and no physical address. The payments were routed through Zelle to a personal savings account at Regions Bank. I placed the bank statement on the bench. That account belongs to Patricia Ann Hayward. Derek grabbed Patricia's arm. Don't say anything. But Patricia was already spiraling. That money was owed to me, she blurted. Cole promised me. He said the business would take care of me. He said, he left you $50,000 and a letter, I said quietly. You cashed the check and never opened the envelope. The gallery murmured. Marcus looked up for the first time. His expression had changed. He wasn't staring at the floor anymore. He was staring at Patricia. I opened the yellow tab. Your Honor, there's one more thing. The most important thing. Judge Reeves nodded. As part of her petition, Mrs. Hayward submitted a document she claims was signed by my late husband. It purports to grant her advisory authority over the business and the family trust in the event of his incapacitation or death. It's dated 4 months before he passed. I held up the document. This signature is a digital reproduction. It was copied from a vehicle title transfer Cole signed in 2023 and overlaid onto this letter using basic photo editing software. Derek's pen clattered onto the table. He didn't pick it up. I had this document examined by a certified forensic document analyst. The report is in the binder. The pixel density around the signature doesn't match the rest of the document. The metadata shows the PDF was created 17 days after Cole's death. And the editing software used, Canva, is linked to an account registered under Patricia Hayward's email address. The courtroom was silent. Not the silence of people waiting. The silence of people recalculating every assumption they'd walked in with. Patricia turned to Derek. You said they wouldn't check the metadata, she hissed. She said it loud enough for the microphone to pick up. I watched Judge Reeves's eyes widen by exactly 2 millimeters. Derek pushed his chair back from the table like he was trying to physically distance himself from his own client. Judge Reeves took a long breath. She put her glasses back on, then took them off again. Then she spoke in a voice so measured it almost sounded gentle, which made it more devastating. Mrs. Hayward, did you submit a forged document to this court? I didn't forge anything. It's what Cole wanted, he told me. Mrs. Hayward, Judge Reeves's voice dropped half an octave. I'm going to ask you one more time, and I strongly recommend you speak to your attorney before you answer. Did you submit a document to this court bearing a signature you knew was not authentically affixed by the decedent? Derek leaned over and whispered something. Patricia shook her head violently. Then she said the words that sealed her fate. He owed me. After everything I sacrificed for that family, he owed me more than $50,000 and a letter. The courtroom erupted. Patricia's sister covered her mouth. The book club friends exchanged looks of pure horror. Marcus stood up from his seat and walked to my side of the courtroom. He sat down in the empty chair next to mine without saying a word. He didn't need to. The gesture said everything. Judge Reeves raised her hand for silence. This court finds no evidence of mental incapacity, financial recklessness, or parental unfitness on the part of the respondent, Miss Hayward. The petition for emergency conservatorship is denied with prejudice. The petition for temporary custody is denied with prejudice. She turned to Patricia. Furthermore, this court is referring the forged document, the fraudulent evaluation, and the alleged embezzlement of business funds to the Davidson County District Attorney's Office for Criminal Investigation. Mrs. Hayward, I am also referring Miss Dana Whitfield's conduct to the Tennessee Department of Health for a licensing review. Diagnosing a patient without examination is not just unethical. In this state, it may constitute fraud. She paused and looked at Derek. Mr. Stoll, you submitted a document to this court that has been credibly shown to be a forgery. Whether you were aware of its nature is a question I will leave to the district attorney, but I will be notifying the Board of Professional Responsibility. Derek said nothing. His cologne seemed to have gotten stronger, like his sweat was activating it. Judge Reeves looked at me last. Miss Hayward, I want to acknowledge what you've presented here today. The level of documentation, the restraint, the patience required to compile this evidence while simultaneously managing a business, raising a child, and grieving a husband that is not the behavior of someone who is incompetent. It is, frankly, remarkable. This court owes you an apology for the time this proceeding has consumed. I nodded. I said, "Thank you, Your Honor." My voice cracked on the last word. It was the first time it had cracked all morning. The courtroom emptied slowly. Patricia left without looking at me. Derek followed 3 steps behind her, already on his phone. The book club friends slipped out a side door like they were fleeing a crime scene. Marcus found me in the hallway. He had tears in his eyes. "I believed her," he said. "She called me every week. She said you were falling apart. She said Emma was suffering. I should have called you. I should have." "You should have," I said, "but I understand why you didn't. She's very good at what she does. She doesn't just lie to you. She makes you feel like believing her is the compassionate thing to do. Like doubting her would make you a bad person. Why didn't you tell me what was happening?" I looked at him for a long time, because I needed her to believe she had everyone. If she thought someone was on my side, she would have changed her approach. She would have hidden the QuickBooks edits. She might not have forged that signature. She needed to feel completely safe to go all the way. And I needed her to go all the way, because halfway wouldn't have been enough to stop her permanently. Marcus shook his head slowly. "Cole would be proud of you. Cole would be furious at his mother," I said. "But yeah, I think he'd be proud too." I walked out into the Nashville morning. March in Tennessee smells like wet earth and fresh grass, like the world is deciding whether to bloom. I sat on a bench outside the courthouse and called Keisha at the office. "How'd it go?" she asked. "We're fine," I said. "Everything's fine." "Good," she said. "Because the Franklin HOA just approved the spring contract. 46 properties." I laughed. It was the first real laugh I'd had in weeks. Life was continuing whether I was ready or not. 4 weeks later, Patricia was indicted on 3 counts: theft from an estate, forgery of a legal document, and filing a fraudulent petition with the court. Dana Whitfield's license was suspended pending a full review. The Department of Health investigation found that she had conducted 5 other evaluations in the past 3 years without ever meeting the subjects, all referred through her sister's real estate network. 5 people diagnosed by a woman who never looked them in the eye. Derek Stoll was not indicted, but the Board of Professional Responsibility opened an investigation that resulted in a formal reprimand and a 2-year supervised practice requirement. His name was published in the Tennessee Bar Journal. In Nashville's legal community, that's a career obituary written in slow motion. Patricia took a plea deal: 18 months supervised probation, full restitution of the $28,000, a restraining order prohibiting contact with Emma or me for 5 years, and 200 hours of community service. She was also ordered to attend a cognitive behavioral therapy program for what the judge called manipulative conduct patterns. I don't know if therapy can fix what's broken in Patricia, but at least now there's a paper trail. Marcus came to dinner the following Sunday. He brought a toy horse for Emma and a bottle of sparkling cider for me. We sat on the back porch and watched Emma run circles around the yard with the dog, a golden retriever named Biscuit who Cole had adopted as a puppy the year we got married. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. "Sure." "Were you scared?" "During all of it. The 8 weeks you were building that binder. Were you scared?" I watched Emma try to get Biscuit to jump over a stick. He walked around it instead. She put her hands on her hips in frustration, a gesture so perfectly Cole that my chest ached. "Every single day," I said. "I woke up at 3 in the morning most nights. My hands would shake when I was logging into QuickBooks to check if she'd made more changes. I had nightmares about losing Emma. There were nights I sat on the bathroom floor after she fell asleep and just held my knees and breathed. But you never showed it." "No, because if I showed it, Patricia would have used it. That's how people like her operate. Your fear is their fuel. Your tears are their evidence. The only thing they can't work with is silence." Marcus was quiet for a while. Then he said, "You know what Cole used to say about you?" "What?" "He said you were the quietest storm he'd ever seen." I smiled. That sounded like Cole. He always did love a good metaphor. The $28,000 came back. I used it to set up a college fund for Emma in Cole's name. The business kept growing. Keisha became a partner. We added a design division for residential landscapes and hired 12 new people by summer. I kept the house. I kept the necklace. I kept every photo of Cole on every wall of every room because Emma deserves to grow up surrounded by her father's face. On the anniversary of Cole's death, I took Emma to the cemetery. She brought a drawing she'd made at school, a picture of our house with 4 figures in front of it. Me, her, Biscuit, and a tall figure with yellow-brown eyes and a big smile. "That's Daddy," she said, pointing. "He's watching us from heaven, but I drew him down here so he wouldn't be lonely." I held my daughter so tight I thought my ribs would crack, and I cried. Not the controlled, measured composure I'd maintained in that courtroom. Real crying, the kind that comes from a place so deep you didn't even know it was there until someone 6 years old reaches in and touches it. When we got home, I put Emma to bed. I made a cup of coffee. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd built that binder page by page, and I let myself feel everything I hadn't allowed myself to feel for a year. The grief, the anger, the loneliness, the fear that never fully went away. And then I opened my laptop and wrote this down. All of it. Because somewhere right now, someone is sitting in a kitchen at 2 a.m. with a stack of bank statements that don't make sense and a family member who keeps telling everyone she's losing her mind. And that person needs to know something. You are not crazy. The numbers don't lie, even when the people around you do. Document everything. Screenshot everything. Tell no one until the binder is full. And when you walk into that room, don't walk in angry. Walk in ready. Because people like Patricia are counting on your emotion. They feed on chaos. They thrive in confusion. The one thing they cannot survive is a calm woman with a folder full of facts and the patience to wait for the right moment to open it. Strength isn't loud. Strength isn't dramatic. Strength is a 3-ring binder with colored tabs and a woman who learned a long time ago that the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to show up. And when it does, the people who built their case on lies will do what they always do. They'll turn on each other. They'll point fingers. They'll say it wasn't their idea. And you'll be standing there, steady as a heartbeat, watching the whole thing fall apart. Not because you're fearless, because you decided that being afraid wasn't a good enough reason to let someone take what your family built and your daughter deserves. Patricia was loud. I was quiet. She played to the gallery. I played to the evidence. And when the judge finally looked up from that binder, everyone in that courtroom realized they'd been watching the wrong woman the entire time.